Thanks, Councillor Amita. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I guess this question maybe goes out to Ms. Ladd. Hi. So we have a meetings agenda and the additions that you put out that the school board has maybe retracted on what we agreed on. And maybe I thought for council around the table here, and maybe for the public, we could maybe expand a little bit before we have to go to a vote in June.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor McCann. I'll start on this, and Steve Naylor can definitely jump in and offer anything else as well. As you know, the review of the site plan for a South End school has been under consideration for several months. Through that time, there have been a number of meetings to try and come to a resolution with the school board about the location of the school at the property. Just to recap, the new urban design policies for the annex lands and in the Hewitts Creek area, or the Hewitts area in particular, requires streets to be located, or buildings to be located along the street frontage. And in the case of the proposed South End School, it's located at the south end of the property, which is at the back of the property, the furthest distance from the street. We had discussions with the school board prior to the submission of their first site plan, which was submitted to council in the fall. We had, at council's request for a deferral, we had a second set of meetings with the school board at that time. The school board, in partial resolution of the issue, suggested that the corner of Prince William and Mapleview be developed with a smaller accessory building that would then put some building at the frontage of the intersection. Council, they didn't make that as a formal proposal, so their site plan as presented with the school at the south end of the property was denied by council. We had a third set of discussions with the school board in early 2016, wherein the proposal for a building at the corner of Mapleview and Prince William Way seemed to be the agreed plan of action. The site plan was revised and submitted in around March, April. And at that time, the site plan was very similar to the first submission in that there was no building at the corner of Mapleview and Prince William Way. The school board had retained a planning consultant to help them with the design considerations, and that planning consultant convened a meeting between the school board and the city. Recently, it was approximately 3 weeks ago, in an attempt to once again see if we could come to some resolution of the issue. We discussed at that meeting, again, the location of a building at that corner. There was agreement at that meeting between both parties, and subsequently we received a letter of understanding from the school board in relation to that building, which and a submission of a site plan which did include future development block, but the letter of understanding did say that the city had to acknowledge that development may never occur on that block, which in our opinion actually renders the agreement non-beneficial to meeting our urban design guidelines. So that's as quick a synopsis as I can do of over 8 months of work. And Mr. Naylor, if you wish to jump in, please do so.
Your Worship, I think that was pretty comprehensive. I'll just note that when the school board did hire the urban designer, we did have an opportunity to meet twice with that person, staff did. So there were a number of points in time where we were able to discuss the policies of the official plan, the goals of what we saw the site to achieve. So we are, as Ms. Ladd has said, where we are today with a plan that isn't substantially different than what council saw in the fall. So we will, we intend at this point to bring a report forward to council on June 6th for your consideration.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Well, I was at the April 27th meeting with a lot of members around here today, and I thought that we had a really strong agreement from both sides. And so, can you give us a little light? Can you shed a little light on where things went pear-shaped? How could all parties be so focused on a resolution to have a school built, and then within a short period of time, which was maybe 10 days, they, like a turtle, came back to their original site plan and really disregarded that 2-hour session? I didn't mean to be, I just want to be very clear, I didn't mean to be condescending there. I just meant they retracted. So I just want to make that public.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councilor McCann. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I do know that there were 2 meetings of the school board trustees. Those meetings were conducted in camera, so I am not familiar with the content of their discussions. I do know that I received late last week, actually on Thursday, an email copy of a revised letter of understanding and a revised site plan, and that's the extent of my knowledge as to what happened between the meeting and the submission.
Maybe the question goes out to Mayor Lehman. Is there anything we can do to talk to the trustees? Is there anything we can do to bring these 2 parties together? Because this is just getting ridiculous. This is going to hurt my residents in Ward 10. It's going to hurt Barrie as a community as a whole. I don't get it. And it's not because I'm a new councillor. It's because this is just, there's missing pieces here. And I'm just maybe reaching out to you because you've had a lot of experience. What else can I do as the Ward 10 councillor? What else can you do as a mayor? And what else can we do as a council? We all want this school built, but it just, there has to be some give. We are leaders of the city of Barrie. School trustees, the school board, us here in council and city staff. And we need to make changes that are best for everybody. And to me, this is ridiculous. Not to sound like an elementary school kid, but I need to have some clarity here on how we're going to get a school built. And this paper here tells me that we're out for a fight. I don't want to fight. I want a school built.
Well, Councilor McCann, I can only say I share your frustration. You know, for those playing our home game or wondering what's being referred to here, there's a 6-page memorandum on Council's agenda tonight outlining the history on this issue back to the first time the board was given our comments about the site plan, which was January 15th, 2015. But what we're focusing on, and Councilor McCann, I think you're asking about, is the very last 2 entries on this memo, which is the 6th page, which refers to the meeting that was held here 3 weeks ago on April 27th, at which there was agreement between the board and the city that a revised site plan and a letter of understanding that would then document the agreement, which was to revise the site plan to surplus the corner and allow that for future development. And we received the response to that, and the idea of that meeting, of course, was to develop a potential compromise solution that could be presented to City Council and presented to the trustees. And because this board needs to revise its plan, it was presented to the trustees. We do not know why the version of the letter we got back does not reflect what was discussed in that meeting and agreed by everybody in the room. It essentially does not commit to anything, and I don't understand myself why there is no willingness to compromise here. I thought we had seen some willingness to do that. We had a meeting that ultimately ended in an approach. And then the version of the letter of understanding that was received by the city late last week does not reflect that agreement. Your question to me is, what more can we do at this point? I'm not sure, Councilor McCann. We've tried 3 times now. Your motion and the meetings that occurred in the fall was an attempt to find a compromise. We were informed, it says earlier in this memo, actually at the top of page 6, in January, the school board advised the city would be receiving an amended site plan in February showing a building at the corner of Mapleview and Prince William Way. Then when the site plan came in, it did not have that building. It had basically the site plan that we'd seen previously. So I'm not sure what to tell you, Councilor McCann. We don't know the reasons that the trustees took this action, or the board sent this version of the letter of understanding. I can only say that council would have had to consider whatever was ultimately submitted, as did the trustees, and for whatever reason they did not bring it forward. But, you know, when I was asked by the board's consultant, would you have a meeting to discuss potential compromise, I absolutely agreed. Continue to believe that's a far better solution than ending up at the OMB. That being said, I think the city has tried on multiple occasions here to show some flexibility, encourage the board to submit a revised plan that would at least better meet our policies. And here we are. So I don't know that I have an answer for you, Councilor McCann, except that I hope that the board will reconsider the letter that they sent us and forward to us a revised site plan and an LOU that reflect the meeting that that you and I had, and our staff had, and the leadership from the board had.
Once again, Mayor, do you mind? So we are not at the point of no return then. We still have until June 6th.
Well, the staff report, I understand Mr. Naylor just said, will come to council on June 6th, and council will make this decision based on the merits of whatever application the school board has submitted. If they do not revise their application, I believe it will be the one that was submitted many weeks ago that did not reflect any of the city's concerns.
Maybe one last question, Mayor, if you don't mind. Is there any way of going to the ministry and having a conversation with the ministry just to understand the process on why 2 logical entities are trying to do something together and how they can be so far apart when we've done hundreds of applications together? It's not like we're new at the table. Is there any option that we can go over their head? Not that I'm trying to do this in a mischievous way, but we need to get this school built. And playing nice hasn't gotten us very far, has it?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councilor McCann, I think that the response from the ministry would be that's what the OMB is for.
Okay, then maybe one last question, because the council is going to have a decision to make on June 6th, and I don't believe that the staff report is going to be enough information. We need to know options, right? Like, what does this mean to the residents in Ward 10? What does this mean to the southeast corner, right? If they vote yes, they vote no, what are the options? And so therefore, is that going to be in the staff report? Is that something we should seek out individually if we don't have an understanding?
Through you, Your Worship, there were a number of options put forward by the city. I believe they were in a report that came from Planning Services last fall. The only one that seemed to have some interest to the school board was the building at the corner. I believe that there was a staff report from the school board staff to the trustees. It was fairly recent, actually, and it did lay out some options for the school trustees about what their potential response could be in the event that we couldn't reach an agreement. We can certainly circulate that report to council. There were a number of options that included proceeding to the Ontario Municipal Board. There was an option that suggested they could look at alternative models such as increasing accommodation in a number of high schools throughout the city to accommodate the students. And there was an option that they could look at requesting that the ministry move the funding from this school to another school somewhere in the county that they could use until they resolve this. That's what I recall off the top of my head. Yes. And we can circulate a copy of that report to council.
Okay, thank you. Well, I can say that this is the last hear from Mayor Lehman, but it's not. It'll be the last question I have for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Ladd, just to clarify something you said in response to Councilor McCann there. So we had a meeting with the board leadership, which was facilitated by the board's consultant, and there was agreement reached in that meeting on a potential way forward to get the school built. We received the revised LOU late last week, and you have not received any indication from the school board as to why that agreement is not reflected in the letter, why they did not approve that agreement.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Other inquiries, members of General Committee? Sorry, I did have a list. Councilor Khan.
Thanks, Mayor. Let me just follow up. First and foremost, obviously, Councilor McCann, I think a number of us share your frustration, and certainly the level of impact goes beyond your ward and certainly will have impact on other students who are going to carry the brunt at their school with compromised quality of education, with additional portables and a lack of extracurricular activities, et cetera, for example, at Innisdale. So certainly it's felt throughout the city, I'm sure. By way of that, though, Mayor Lehman, I just asked a question. Certainly I'm not a planner, but through you to Mr. Naylor, really my question is, if the school board has suggested in this document, at least at one point, one iteration of the document, that a structure on the corner was feasible, doesn't that go back to our original plan that we wanted a structure on the corner? And the objection was grading, in great part was grading, or the cost of grading. If it's possible, then it's possible. Whether it's a commercial strip plaza, which is my suspicion, or whether it's a school structure, a school building. And I'm just curious of your take. I'm not asking you to read their mind, but if it's possible to build a building, isn't it possible to build a building?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Khan. Yes, I would take it that the discussions we've had, it is feasible to build a building of some description, some size on that corner. There are some potential limitations that we've heard about, one of which is stormwater drainage, but I believe that through timing that could be overcome. It may not be a physical constraint. It could well be other constraints, financial or otherwise, that the school board has concerns with. But from a physical sense, from everything I've heard and seen, including grading, yes, it is possible to build a building.
Thank you. I'll take that. Thank you very much. Mayor Lehman, just my last question, actually following up to